Hello and welcome to today's episode in SERVA's newly launched webinar series entitled Mobilizing Diversity Client Conversations. I am Stephanie Captain, Director of Marketing and Affinity here at SERVA. We are so excited that you've chosen to tune in to our dynamic conversation that we have lined up for you today. This series was designed to really take an intimate look at how our clients are not only addressing, but also making an impact in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion as it relates to mobility. Whether an organization has been on the path for many years or they're just starting out, part of the journey to creating an equitable workplace is really for each individual to take a personal look at their beliefs and their commitment to becoming an agent of change. Any longevity or ongoing impact in the area of D&I really takes a lot of collaboration. Organizations best move the needle when everyone comes together to walk on the path and not just stand on the sidelines. SERVA is committed to our clients. We've created this series to truly share best practices and highlight those doing great work at the intersection of mobility, diversity, equity, and inclusion. With that, we're truly honored to have SERVA's own with us today, our dynamic director of global account management, Susan McCune. Susan's going to be leading a conversation with two esteemed special guests, Inshirah Marchan, HR Business Partner Manager with Kia Motors North America, and Annie Savitch, HR Business Partner Manager with Kia Motors America. We are truly looking forward to hearing what these dynamic ladies have to share with us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Susan.
Thanks, Stephanie. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us on this series as we explore diversity and inclusion practices with various clients. I'm really pleased to have Inshirah and Annie with us today as representatives of Kia. And I think it'd be great to start off with just, Inshirah, if you could tell us a little bit about Kia in North America and historically how inclusion and diversity has been part of your culture
there. Absolutely, Susan. Thank you. First off, thank you for having us here today. We're really excited to be a part of your new series. But historically with Kia, our I&D purpose or our I&D function used to sit in our legal department because when it was launched back in 2012, it was more of a function of compliance and more of an external focus. And that is where it stayed until just recently. Even prior to some of the civil and political unrest that's been going on in the organization, we were having a lot of thoughts at the beginning of the year and late last year if I&D should come over into the HR side of the business. And you know, it just so happened to be a perfect storm, if you will, that this year everything kind of came to the forefront and a lot of people were more focused on inclusion and diversity. And with that, we did make the decision to move our I&D function under the HR team where they would have a lot more support and become more of a nucleus of the organization.
And Annie, how have you seen the role of inclusion and diversity change within Kia over the last year?
Sure. Well, to start off, we updated the diversity and inclusion department titles and efforts to inclusion and diversity. The intent there is that by default, we are all already diverse. We want to hone in on making inclusion more of an intent and place that emphasis. We then bring the awareness and learning of diversity through inclusion. So this year, we are also looking to redevelop a proactive multi-pronged strategy, which includes our 2021 inclusion and diversity planning we've begun over the past few months. Our 2021 Inclusion and Diversity Plan is scalable and demonstrates our organization's commitment to true inclusion. In developing the 2021 plan, the goal is to positively grow as in diversity representation, equity, and inclusion for people of color, with an emphasis on Black representation and minority-owned businesses developed by our stakeholders within our company, such as departments such as advertising and marketing, philanthropy, dealerships, procurement, and personnel. Our leaders and team at Kia are committed to increasing equity and representation for people of color in all areas of our business, with a sense of immediacy, especially in our corporate hierarchy and support. In this past year, we are also looking to mark I&D as a key part of the Kia culture through our core values. And of course, last but not least, we are also looking to match the diversity representation of Kia's consumers.
Thank you. So that I understand how you're looking really as an organization internally on how you can bring inclusivity and diversity within your organization. But Inshirah, can you speak a little bit about how I&D is part of your supplier sourcing?
Absolutely. We've recognized that historically we've been challenged for several factors, but we had very limited inclusion of people of color-owned suppliers in our supply base. So moving forward, we're going to work to improve that and incorporate more diverse suppliers, as well as partnerships with minority-owned businesses throughout our organization. Our goal is really to increase our current spend with minority-owned businesses, and as well as work through the supplier bases we have now, and also networking to get more suppliers and find more suppliers that are people of color. And we're hoping to really work with the I&D department in various business units across KMA and KMNA, and even across the country, is to find those suppliers and really grow our diversity in that realm.
Sure, that makes sense. And suppliers are one arm of that. And then when it comes to recruiting your people, Annie, how do you work to make inclusion and diversity part of your recruiting process?
Well, we build networks and identify and partner with diverse institutions to build a wider pool of diverse candidates. And of course, we educate potential applicants about Kia. We create mentoring, development, and sponsorship pathways specifically for underrepresented minority team members. We also advertise Kia culture as a place where everyone belongs by investing in recruiting marketing efforts focused on inclusion and diversity campaigns.
That makes sense. And then once people join Kia as an employee, what responsibility does each employee have for inclusion and diversity? Inshirah?
Everyone plays a role. We are actually really striving for a cultural change and not just a program. Kia is looking forward to the future of selling and changing the experience of all of our team members, our customers, suppliers, and partners. This may look different in each business unit, in each department, because each department has their own unique needs, and based on their individual makeup, of course, they may see inclusion and diversity differently. But the main thing is we want to recognize that inclusion and diversity and equity and belonging are at the heart of everything that we do to ensure that we're providing the best culture for our team, a culture that will foster safety and honesty and growth within the organization. And it's also important that we tailor that message to everyone on the team, internally and externally. And not everybody's going to be at the same place through this journey, and we understand that, but we're wanting to create a culture where we grow and we bring everybody along with us. Something that we did this year that I thought was very helpful in starting that growth path is our diversity dialogues. So this was really a safe space for team members to come voluntarily and have a chance to speak their mind and kind of learn a little bit more about diversity and what that means to Kia as an organization, and also do some education around what biases mean and how that influences your diversity efforts as a company. So that was one of the biggest steps we took this year. And we also had a round where we did our executives and brought them on the journey with us. This is something we're definitely going to incorporate as part of our cultural change. And we're definitely looking forward to partnering with the organization that we helped us do the diversity dialogues this year, well into the future.
Yeah. Thank you. I love the idea of diversity dialogues where you're asking people to come forward and share and ask questions and learn from each other. I think that's really valuable. And it's really interesting to see how not all companies, including Kia, are really coming along this journey and taking more and more positive steps going forward. So thank you very much, Inshirah and Annie, for your time here today. I think it's been very valuable. And I look forward to seeing more in the future what Kia is going to be doing. Stephanie?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, ladies. Before we go, I'd like to ask one last question of both Inshirah and Annie, and that's really, can you tell us about yourself? Can you tell us about what your passion is in this specific diversity and inclusion area?
Absolutely. I'll jump right in there. So I've been in human resources for several years, and even before, I think inclusion and diversity was more of a cultural path, when it was more compliance. It's always been something I've been very passionate about. Being able to watch someone grow and remove the barriers for their career growth has been something that's been very important to me. And in this culture that we're in right now, where we're recognizing that something more needs to be done than just having a diverse population, but one that's inclusive and creating equity among all its team members and all its customers and supplier base, it's something that really drives the passion for me. And I'm very proud that Kia is taking that step. And in recognizing that we are diverse and we've always been diverse, but now it's time to take it to a higher level and start working on true inclusion and equity within the organization.
That's awesome. What about you, Annie?
I think, similar to Inshirah's points, I think historically people are aware of diversity and inclusion and equity, but I think now to incorporate that in all of our DNA, ins and outs, anything that we do, that we live by that, I think really drives and makes it more meaningful and worthwhile. There's an intent in there now that, again, goes back to, the meaningfulness of it.
No, that's fantastic. Well, we definitely appreciate both of you and thank both of you, as well as the Kia organization, for being willing to share with us today. It's so very important that we are, taking a look at this topic and sharing any insights that we have with our counterparts, so that other organizations can grow their efforts as well. What works for one organization in practice may or may not work for another organization, but we've heard from the experts that in many ways, D&I can be thought of as, another organizational change initiative. Mm-hmm. We hope everyone has enjoyed their time with us today, and we hope that you join us for our next discussion in the Mobilizing Diversity series as we explore more on this very important topic. Thank you.